A really good listening skill is, don't get stuck on words you don't know. In this video, you get a story to practice listening to English. There's lots of difficult words, but you can check them later in the script. Practice listening for general meaning in this story. I'm going to tell you part 4 of a story about a young woman named Zoe. Listen to this story to work around difficult vocabulary so you don't feel frustrated. Here are some pre-listening questions. Question 1. Who was the first customer? Question 2. What happened to the teacher's papers? Question 3. Where does control come from? Question 4. How did Zoe brew drinks after she caught images from customers' thoughts? Question 5. What was Zoe beginning to learn? Telekinetic troubles. The first customer. Zoe froze as the sugar dispenser floated past her head. 3 weeks into her apprenticeship, and still the Quantum Cafe found ways to surprise her. The telepathic tea requires special handling, they're warned. It awakens dormant mental abilities. You mean like Zoe gestured at the orbiting sugar dispenser? Precisely. But remember, power demands responsibility. Zoe approached the tea station cautiously. The leaves shimmered with an inner light, each one pulsing like a tiny star. As she measured them into the infuser, they responded to her touch, dancing between her fingers. A customer entered, a harried-looking teacher, clutching a stack of papers. Something to help me focus. Please. Perfect timing, Zoe smiled. Our telepathic tea might help. Something odd. The brewing process demanded intense concentration. Zoe watched the water shift from clear to iridescent, tendrils of psychic energy swirling within. She poured carefully, willing the liquid into a perfect stream. The teacher took a sip and gasped. Her papers lifted gently from her hands, arranging themselves neatly on the counter. What in the world? A side effect, Zoe explained. It should help with grading, but something felt odd. Zoe's own consciousness expanded, touching the minds around her. Thoughts and feelings brushed against her awareness, like autumn leaves in the wind. Variety of customers. More customers arrived. A student's anxiety about exams radiated in purple waves. A businessman's strategic plans glowed like neon signs. A couple's shared love shimmered gold between them. Zoe tried to focus on brewing, but objects began responding to her distraction. Coffee cups danced. Pastries levitated. A bagel sailed across the room like a UFO. Stay calm, Heather advised, deftly catching the bagel. Control comes from acceptance. Zoe nodded, breathing deeply. Direct the energy. She felt the chorus of minds around her, each one a unique melody in the cafe's psychic symphony. Gradually, she learned to direct the energy. She guided fresh cups to waiting customers with mental nudges. Spilled coffee reversed its path, flowing back into the cups. Even the notorious espresso machine seemed to respond to her thoughts. Then, she caught a troubling image from the teacher's mind. A student struggling, too afraid to ask for help. The businessman planned to close a factory, destroying lives. The student contemplated cheating on their exam. The gift of insight carries a burden, Heather said softly. We can't control others' choices. Zoe understood. Instead of intervening directly, she infused each drink with subtle suggestions. Compassion in the teacher's tea. Conscience in the businessman's brew. Confidence for the anxious student. Changed. As the effects began to fade, the customers left, changed. The teacher scheduled extra help sessions. The businessman reconsidered his plans. The student resolved to study harder. Zoe slumped against the counter, mentally exhausted. Remaining cups and saucers settled gently into their places. Well handled, Heather smiled. You're learning that true power lies not in control, but in influence. Zoe nodded, watching the last traces of telepathic energy dissipate. Every gift from the cafe seems to teach a lesson. Indeed, tomorrow we explore quantum realms. But for now, rest. Mental lifting can be heavier than physical. As Zoe cleaned up, she noticed small changes in her perception. Though the tea's effects had worn off, she remained more attuned to the subtle currents of thought and emotion around her. The Quantum Cafe had given her another tool, another way to serve not just drinks, but understanding. She smiled, wondering what other mysteries tomorrow would bring. Answers. Who was the first customer? The first customer was a harried-looking teacher. What happened to the teacher's papers? They arranged themselves in a way that made grading easier. Where does control come from? Control comes from acceptance. How did Zoe brew drinks after she caught images from customers' thoughts? She began to brew empathy into their drinks. What was Zoe beginning to learn? She was beginning to learn that true power lies in influence and not control.